Cheers.
Cheers.
That was weird. It kept playing the music. Wait a minute.
Cheers.
Sorry. I had, for some reason, I had it on a different tab there. So it was playing a double there. Welcome, everyone. We have a special guest today. Filipe, you want to introduce yourself and your channel? And
hello, everyone, and thanks for having me. My name is Filipe. I'm originally from Brazil, living in UK, and I am the host of ShmupsBR channel. And the now almost, I wouldn't say dead. It's more like an undead blog because from every now and then I post something there, but it's called ShmupsBR.blogspot.com. And I also write for the Shmupmania Magazine.
This is how I found you, Filipe. I saw someone post about Shmupmania, and I was looking. I was like, "There's a new magazine in 2022 that is only about shooters and shmups." I'm like that is crazy. That is awesome. So that was as soon as I saw that, I was like, "All right, I got to get it. I got to get an issue." By the way, do you have any issues left for the first one?
You know, I'm not the in charge of the distribution, so I have to check with my. We have I mean, I'm the only guy outside Brazil doing this, so I have to check with the guys in Brazil if they have something. I think we may have, but you have to, if you are interested, send us an email to contact@shmupmania.com.br. We may have. I don't guarantee anything, but we may have some.
That's contact at
shmupmania.com.br.
.br. Let's see. I'll highlight it here as soon as it pops up. Just make sure it's right. There we go.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
All right, there you go. If you're interested in an issue, and you have is the second issue out in Brazil already?
Yeah, we're working on the third issue now.
Awesome.
We had a kind of a problem to distribute it to even to advertise it outside Brazil because it's we don't Kickstarter doesn't support projects developed in Brazil, so we cannot start a Kickstarter project in Brazil, and this like it's giving us like lots of headaches because we had to use a platform that nobody used, and the platform was kind of, you know, didn't have all the functionalities we needed, and in the end this ended up like causing us some damage in terms of reach, because like, for example, that it was for some stupid reason, like that's beyond me. It was mandatory to have some text in Portuguese there, and man, you're doing an international version. You don't want any text in Portuguese in the description there, and we just couldn't remove it. We even went in contact with the support guys and everything, but they said no, it's the way it is, and that's it.
Yeah, recently on Facebook I saw there was like remember the Odyssey 2, the old system? Oh, there's a new one coming out, and it's like a Kickstarter, but it's only in Brazil. And I went to the page and I was like, all right, I can't figure anything out here. And I think they only ship to Brazil, so I was like, all right, I'll just wait till they get it and I'll see what it's like, because
you know,
there's no way to get it here. Like,
actually, well, if you need help to understand or to get something from Brazil, just give me a shout, because I'm more than happy to help you guys. Like the problem is not buying something in Brazil and taking it out. The problem is buying something globally and bringing it to Brazil. This is a nightmare.
And that's the big thing with Brazilian gaming, right? The cost for people living there is pretty outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah, and the problem is this is now so, I think, indoctrinated in our culture that we start to normalizing it, and it's not normal at all. Like it's not something like people have to have access to things. Like if you have the money, you buy it, and you should have it delivered to you, and you, of course, you pay your taxes and whatever. But no.
So you cannot even have these outside games delivered to you in Brazil. No, I know you're not there now, but
No, you can, but the problem is it costs you a lot. It will probably cost like 2 to 3 times the listed price.
Gotcha.
Jeez. Do you know what's popular there right now?
If your package don't fall in one of our mail systems black holes, and God knows.
Gotcha.
So Felipe, do you know what systems are big there right now? Like is like current or any of the Xbox, PS5, or Switch, or any of those popular there? Or just too expensive?
We are usually 1 or 2 generations behind because of price, basically costs. So I would say PS4 is pretty hot now. Xbox is hot now because I keep forgetting the name of the monthly subscription that gives you all the games.
Game Pass.
Yeah, Game Pass.
Yeah.
Game Pass is helping Xbox to get popular in Brazil now because of this. Because you don't have to buy games. Like, people are more than happy to pay the Game Pass, and that's it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a great workaround. So, what were the big systems when you were growing up?
Oh wow, this is a pretty long story, but anyway, in the back in the day, like in the 80s, like just to put you some context, I know you probably know something about it, but Brazil in the 80s, well, we have a military dictatorship that started in 1964 and lasted until 1988. So between 64 and 88, we were literally forbidden to officially import things from the outside world. We just couldn't.
Anything.
Anything. I mean, not anything. Like, of course, like there were arrangements between big companies and government, but like as an individual, like if you, let's say you start, like you want to open a, I don't know, video game business. You want to open like a Blockbuster. You cannot buy you couldn't buy like VHSs or anything. So that you have to import everything. And when I say import, I mean gray market. You couldn't, like, there was no such thing as an import license because like the military decided that we had to protect our internal industry, and that's it. But of course, like if you could buy a flight ticket to US, for example, and show import items in your luggage and bring to Brazil, they're yours. So, and people start making this as a business, like in a way of life.
You're telling me a couple of days ago sometimes it was cheaper to fly to the US, buy your stuff, and then come back than it was just to buy it right there.
Definitely. And we had, for example, when the first video game I had contact, like as a home console, I had contact was a Philco, what's the name of the thing? A Philco Pong.
Oh, a Pong system?
Yeah, it was a Pong system made in Brazil. I think it was like a 3 games Pong, something like that.
Right.
It was a big wooden box, like as far as I can remember. And basically, my father was an engineer and like old school engineer. So he was the kind of guy that could like do electronics, coding. But back in the day when engineer was like hardcore stuff, like people had to learn everything. And he loved technology, so he got bored of this Pong in a couple of months. And he said, "No, you know what? I want something better. I heard there's a video game with cartridges. You can switch the game. You don't have to stick to the three games that are in there." And he had a friend that this friend had a girlfriend that was a part of the crew of an airplane crew, like she was a flight attendant. And this friend asked her to bring him an Atari from the United States. And but the problem is in Brazil we use Pulse 60. We are not NTSC.
Oh, so the connection.
and the Atari was in black and white when we plugged to the TV, and the guy sold my father the Atari for like peanuts because he thought it was broke, and my father managed to, reverse engineer something there and hack something there and make it work in PAL 60. So, and we had this Atari like way before any other Atari was like appeared in Brazil. It was crazy. Like people didn't even know what I was talking about. Like, say, oh, you plug this in the TV, how it works. And
it must have been really popular as a kid. Only kid with an Atari.
Kind of, because like my mom used to be like crazy because we used to drag like 10 kids to play Atari, and she didn't like the idea,
That was the same way here.
Oh, I see. But then, but in parallel with the Atari, we had the Odyssey. I think it was the Odyssey 2.
Yeah,
if I'm not wrong. I didn't have an Odyssey. Like it was, I believe, like this other systems. We had the Odyssey, we had the Coleco, and we had the Intellivision. And as far as I know, they didn't sell well because the Atari like pretty much dominated the market. So every other system was like steamrolled by the Atari.
Oh, wow. When did the Sega Master System was extremely popular, wasn't it?
Yes, but this was quite late. Between the Atari we're talking about 1983, 1984. The Master System arrived in 88. So the Atari had a lot of room to,
Oh, so there wasn't much in between then.
No, yeah, and no, there was the MSX.
Right.
Because after the crash, our market was flooded by personal computers. Oh, this is interesting. You're probably thinking, okay, all those Ataris, they're not like from the gray market, right? Yeah, at some point, Atari went to Brazil and decided to start their own business there officially. But the other systems, any other systems, because of this ban of import ban we were living in the 80s, the government decided to just ignore if someone was doing a clone. So we had all kinds of clones,
Right,
from everything, from Apple to MSX, everything, pretty much everything. We had clones of a ZX Spectrum, and at some point the Atari started to show signs, like when the games from the personal computer starts to look a little bit better. Some people decided to switch from the Atari to a personal computer. So, and the MSX was big in Brazil. All other systems like the ZX81, we never had a Commodore 64, but these older systems, like they were there, and people just thought like, okay, and the cartridges were very expensive because, like, if you're from the gray market, you get an Atari and a couple of cards, but that's it. You had to rent them. We had a couple of small business renting cards there back in the day, like they were pretty rare, but especially in the big cities, in the small cities, like none. And so you had to basically trade with other kids, like, and but copying games in computers was like a huge appeal, a huge selling point.
sure.
And some people decided to, okay, I'm struggling to play like this Atari with like 5-6 games. If I can have a computer with like tons of games, I just buy like cassettes or floppy disks and copy from my friends, and that's it. And most people decided to switch from the Atari to a personal computer because of this. It was a hard time to get to put your hands into new stuff. It was hard.
So you had the MSX. Was that the first time you played a shooter, a shmup?
I would say yes, because when people ask me about a shmup, the first memory I have in my mind is Zanek, which is a game from Compile, and it debuted into the MSX1. And I think it was the first time I caught myself like playing a game for hours and hours and hours and nonstop. So yeah, I can say probably it's accurate to say I started playing shmups on my MSX.
Because they had a lot of good. Didn't that? There wasn't. Was there the Less series? Wasn't that on MSX
Yes.
and Cotton as well? I believe.
No, Cotton is 6DX 68000.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, Zanek, the compile, Gradius. No, Gradius is not original from MSX. It's an arcade game, but I think the first home port was from MSX.
Man, I'm sure. I'm sure once you guys had those computers, you were swapping games around.
Yeah,
copies. That was the best deal ever.
yeah. Like we used to do copy fests. We used to do like
A big copy
used to-
party.
Yeah, we used to buy. It was back in the day like five and a quarter floppies. You know, the big ones. I remember I had, I think, 3 or 4 shoe boxes full of them, and we used to go to every other kids. And ideally, what we wanted is to like sync and have everyone have the same games always.
That's
like
awesome.
make sure that everyone that nobody was skipping a title.
When did you get into shmups, like big time? Like,
well, I have some ins and outs. Back in MSX, the shmups were big, so I definitely played a lot. But you know, when you start playing games like on the Master System or the Mega Drive or the NES, and when the NES arrived in Brazil, and yes, we did a proper NES distribution there, clones, but yes, we did. And because sometimes people, I see some people thinking like that. Oh, you never had the NES in Brazil? Yes, we did. We did. It was big, huge, but unofficial.
Unofficial.
Oh, yeah, unofficial. Clones, gray market.
Yep.
We had Brazilian manufacturers doing clones. Actually, I have some cards here I can show you. Just a second. They're pretty cute. Yeah, this is a kind of card used to have back in the day.
Okay, it's almost more like a Famicom.
Famicom,
yeah. As you can see, this is 1944, right? This is the bootleg. It was only released in Brazil.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Oh, Tiger Heli.
Yeah. So which was bigger though? I say there was lots of clone of the NES, but Sega itself set up production in Brazil, did they not?
Yes. What happened to Sega was the let me remember how this story started. Sega wasn't selling well globally. Like they were doing badly in Japan, in the US, and they looked for other markets. Like here in Europe, Sega is crazy. Like people, I see a clear preference over Sega here too, because they went to the markets that nobody wanted. So they went to Brazil, to Europe, to East Asia. So they started selling in these places. And there was a toy manufacturer, actually. It was like a premium toy manufacturer, like toy for rich kids. That's called Tectoy. And Tectoy used to do laser tags. Laser tags, talking robots, all kinds of, fancy, fancy Japanese stuff that they were like being rebranded and reworked in Brazil for the Brazilian market, and they established a partnership with Tectoy and started making the Master System there officially. And
yeah, I've seen a lot of tech toy stuff. It's pretty interesting because you guys have way more stuff than we did when it comes
and for Master System, yes, it's we even have like Street Fighter 2, like in even though it's unplayable, we had it. But anyway, and it's official from Capcom. So, but that what happened with Nintendo was selling pretty well everywhere, so they didn't bother, going to Brazil. And because they ignored the Brazilian market, like we did clones, and the market was flooded by clones, and pretty late in 1980, I think about the same time as the Master System, probably 1 year later, like 89 or 90.
Yep.
The official NES arrived, but we had clones, like competing with the Master System. So I saw a pretty good video. A guy did a pretty good video about the story of the video games in Brazil. I think he's American. The video is very good. I have to confess that the guy did a lot of research. But there's one detail. He made it sound like we didn't have an NES there, which is untrue. Like we had Master Systems officially and an ocean of NES clones.
You're answering this question from before, so that I told Salvador I'd bring it back up later on when we get up to that era, and we've pretty much answered that now.
Yes, we did. Unofficially, we had unofficial clones like from 88 to I would say early 90. And after that, we had official Nintendo that kind of arrived with the SNES.
Okay.
So we had an official NES and SNES being released in Brazil at the same time.
Wow, that's strange.
Yeah.
Did they look like the European versions or
no American?
The American version, okay.
The white and pink thingy, and. But you asked me when I started. Well, after playing shmups on the Famicom, on the Famiclones and a Master System, and then in a Mega Drive, this was like pretty much the golden age of shmups. So it was impossible not to get into and go crazy playing Gaiaris or Thunder Force or whatever games like what we had back in the day. But of course, I wanted to play Street Fighter when it was released, and so I had lots of ins and outs. Like every time, like we had a Doom phase. Everybody was playing Doom. We had the StarCraft phase. Everybody was playing StarCraft. So, and after the PSX, I went to the university and almost stopped playing video games at all because like. Kind of lost interest back in the day, but then I went back, of course. It's in my blood, I guess.
So what did you end up playing Street Fighter on? What system?
Well, we had a SNES. My brother, there's a fun story. My brother, can you highlight the question again? I was
sure.
Sorry.
I was going to let you finish your story and then bring it back up.
Did the PC Engine make an appearance in Brazil? No. I never got into the system now. No, never. We never had a PC Engine in Brazil. We never had a lot of stuff in Brazil, but the PC Engine was totally like we dodged this bullet, and which is a shame. I would love to have a PC Engine back in the day, but I was playing we had a kind of an agreement in my family. Like I have a brother and he's my younger brother. Because he was younger brother and he was kind of allowed to ask whatever he wanted for Christmas or, so I was I had to negotiate a little bit, like I had to go and, I have to come up with a case and say, look, I want this because of that and whatever. Now my brother was kind of this and that's it. So it was pretty easy for him to get video games. So every birthday he could point to something new and say, "Hi, I want this, I want that." Every time I ask for a video game, I end up with a computer. So yeah. This was interesting because we had access to more games, as you can imagine, but like the consoles were never mine. So I end up playing more games, like multiplayer games, like at least like couch co-op games, because of this, like because my brother was kind of, picky and didn't want anyone touching his stuff. So yeah, and we played on the SNES. It was quite fun. Me and the whole block of kids we played it. We played on an SNES. Of course, we tried to play in the arcades, but the concept of an arcade in Brazil is slightly different from what you have in the US. Yeah, it's a dodgy place. You don't want your kids there, definitely.
Oh, okay. Well, that was like the pool hall days of our arcades before video games really sort of took over.
Yeah, no, here, I'm in UK, but in Brazil, the arcades was pretty much like a place, like a small, dodgy place with people like probably unemployed or in a bad job, like doing like small jobs here and there. And a friend of mine has a good explanation. He used to say like, there's a reason why arcade machines had like ashtrays built in. They are not for kids.
When the arcades first came out, there were pretty much an equal amount of adults and kids. At least here there was. There was a big mix of adults and kids here, and then I think adults finally started.
Oh no, this is another fun story. Like because of the military dictatorship, kids weren't allowed in the arcade. If you were like I think 16 or 14, something like that, you were not supposed to not even be there.
So I wonder, do you know what it costs to play an arcade game there? Because if it was so expensive to import, you'd think that cost of like one play. Like here it was a quarter when I was a kid.
No, it wasn't that cheap. And the problem is one of the reasons why this it's so expensive to have video games in Brazil even nowadays is the arcades. Because imagine like I wouldn't say 1964 because there were no arcades in 64, but like probably by the early 70s when people started to trying to import arcades to Brazil, they had to accommodate the arcades in some point in the Brazilian law. And they were put together with slot machines. So they're considered gambling. That's why they charge crazy high taxes for everything related to video games, because they are still under the same category.
Here, a really weird thing is here, pinball games were outlawed for a long time. I think they finally came back. What was it, Pete, in the 60s or 70s?
Well, yeah, before my time. I mean, I always remember them being around, but I think, it would be the 60s, I would think.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's like, I think, I don't know about in Canada, but here, I guess the government thought that they were, I think they thought it was kind of like that, where it was bringing in
when they first come out, I think that's just what it was. It was the pool hall scenario, right? Yeah. That's where they went at first, pool halls and bars. And until they became mainstream.
It's just a funny thing that now it's like pinball machine goes banned. What?
Yeah.
Oh, easy and Aubrey. Okay. It wasn't that hard, to be honest. Pretty much like the fact is, it was never cheap. Never. Imagine like it used to cost like 2 or 3 times what it costs in the US. So I don't know. If imagine, for example, an SNES costing $500. It was the same in Brazil. So, and the fact is that it wasn't easy because it was an expensive thing. So it wasn't like for sale everywhere. And there's another thingy. that's a very Brazilian thing, I guess. We in Brazil tend to, because of soccer, we tend to root for a team. People love this. This is my console. This is my team. This is my, I don't know, pizza place, whatever. They love this. They love to feel that something is for them.
Right.
They like this kind of undeclared ownership of things. The only way I can explain this is probably I blame soccer, because I blame soccer for everything. But I blame soccer, and because the consoles were very expensive, people had to root for one, because you never had to, never. So if you were like a Sega kid, you were Sega. That's it. It's like your team. Like if tomorrow you switch to Nintendo, people make jokes of you.
That's funny.
People stop talking to you. And of course, this is the other way I can explain this is because they were so expensive. People had to pay for them for a year. So it's a emotional investment in somehow. So you're like, I'm paying for this thing in monthly statements, and I have to love it. So otherwise, otherwise my decision was stupid, and I bought the wrong system. So people was invested on this thing. So this is what I guess why we still nowadays do a lot of. We still have this favoritism for one or another there.
So when did you move to England?
Oh, it was 2016.
Oh,
not very long ago then.
Yeah, 6 years.
No. 2016, me and my wife has a Portuguese passport. Before Brexit, we were discussing like things were not very good in Brazil, and we, made some, okay, what if this happens and that happens in the future? And we didn't like the scenario and said, okay, I think it's time to move to another country. And that's what it did.
Oh, how have you liked it?
Yeah, it's nice. Like, I mean, it's amazing to be able to buy things.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing to me.
If you don't mind me asking, what part area, like, are you in around London, or are you over towards Wales or south, north?
Yeah, I'm about 1 hour away from London in Milton Keynes.
About an hour away from London, you said?
Yes, in a city called Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
There is an arcade here, to be honest. Like, it's quite fun.
Right on.
It's nice to be able to buy games for a decent price now.
Yeah, I can buy things. So too bad. Most of the classic systems I like here are PAL, and PAL sucks. Sorry if there's someone that likes PAL, but
yeah,
sorry, man. They were not designed to run that way. So, but yeah, they're PAL. But you can always modify them, so it's not that bad.
Oh, you can to ATSC?
Yeah, you can. You can. There are chips. I mean, some of them are region locked. You just add like a regular chip, mod chip in it, and but yeah, you can.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
Wow.
One more quarter asks. I guess he's talking about cartridges.
One more quarter is to go to my channel. Nice.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
I see you.
One more quarter's got a really nice shmup channel as well.
Oh, Price Games. Where did you do a lot of game trading? Yes. I do a lot of trading. We used to do a lot of trading. We also do a lot of bootlegging.
That's one way to get around it.
Yeah, I have friends in Brazil. Of course, I'm not rooting for piracy or whatever. I'm not. No, it's wrong, man. It's you're doing a copy for something that doesn't belong to you and making profit on it. So, but one thing I'm more against is the crazy price the collectors charge for this stuff, and a natural inflation that happens in the collector's market. So every time I see a game selling for like $500, $1,000 or whatever, I bet there is a bootleg in Brazil doing a copy and selling it like somewhere on Facebook, or I don't know, on a WhatsApp group or something like that for like a fraction of the price. It's the natural way things work. Like if it's too expensive, it's not for anyone. Someone will find a way.
Well, I have a reproduction of Conker's Bad Fur Day on Nintendo 64 because that game's worth hundreds of dollars, and the repro is, I don't know what it was, 20 or 30 bucks.
Man,
and it looks like the exact same cartridge. It played absolutely fine. I'm not gonna pay $500 or whatever for Conker.
I am a friend, and I participated on some reproduction projects back in the day. I can tell you, the idea of a bootlegger nowadays in Brazil is not to make profit because the copy is identical. No way. Our idea is just to make an affordable copy of something that's crazy expensive to someone and allow people to play it and have it, because like, we like these plastic thingies. We do.
Yep.
We do. It's natural. Like it's the victory tokens we have every now and then. We allow ourselves to have every now and then. So, and they're like our tiny little trophies. So we like them, but nobody wants to, go Brazilian and pay for something for like monthly statements till the end of your life because you want like a Chrono Trigger or I don't know, another rare game. So I can tell you, the job they're doing there is very professional, and the idea is make it sure to everyone that the game is a copy, and of course not charge too much. I'm sorry, I lost the question.
Oh, sorry. I think Sam was talking about, you were saying, people were Sega or Nintendo, and
yeah, exactly. But there's a ton of bootlegging nowadays in Brazil. Like people are doing repros of pretty much everything you can imagine.
Is that more popular than just emulation?
No, because emulation is even cheaper. So it's and
that's what drives me for emulation when things are so crazy expensive. Because I mean, most people want to, pick up a cartridge and have it, but when it costs hundreds of dollars, it's like.
No, people don't. In Brazil, people don't. It's just impossible. Like it's based on the base salary you have there. It's impossible. People don't do this. It's the same reason why it's so hard to find a PS5 selling in Brazil. Well, seeing a PS5 selling everywhere now, but like even it was like we're like available everywhere, easy to find on every shop. Man, it's like what, 12,000 reais, something like that. It's the price of a car.
Jeez. Yeah, who could do that?
Yeah. So we end up not doing this. We don't accept this kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say names, but if you want that hard to find game, rare, expensive game, check it out in Brazil. Someone in Brazil is probably doing a copy.
So, how long have you had your YouTube channel? Your YouTube channel is just, it's all just shmups.
Yeah, ShmupsBR. Well, I've been writing about games since the late 90s. Probably 97, 98, when you remember when the blogs were hot, like where everyone had a blog about something. Me and a couple of friends, we had a crazy idea. Like we always loved arcade games. We like, of course, video games as a whole, but home consoles. But the arcade games were not ours. It was not ours to keep. So we had a crazy idea that someday, like, they're gonna be lost and people will forget how the games were, or I don't know. We said, okay, why don't we document this and put everything in a blog, and our impressions, or what we think about the games, how the games, like what would be like kind of a review of the game. And we started doing this, and it went pretty well for years. The blog name was Arcade Rats, and but at some point, the web designer and the person in charge of hosting the blog was one of the writer's girlfriend, and when they broke up, she got pissed off and deleted everything.
Well, that's a terrible way to go out.
And we tried now, and we lost men.
Oh,
Now I can't even say how many pages we lost, how many articles we lost. Like we had articles of pretty much. We bought a digital camera back in the day, and well, anyway. And then I tried to convince them to restart the blog. I never managed, so I started my own alone. Until the point that I noticed that nobody else was reading blogs, so I decided to migrate to YouTube, and here I am.
awesome.
Mixed opinions of Evercade.
Yeah, have you? Evercade's I think it's pretty popular in England.
I'm not familiar with Evercade. What's Evercade? Oh, I see. Yeah, I know what's Evercade.
Yeah, it's the handheld system. Or
Yeah.
So they put a lot of, officially licensed games on a cartridge.
Yeah, I decided not to get one for some reason, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a nice initiative.
I was reading Shmupmania earlier tonight, Filipe, and we talked about that at the very beginning of the show, and it's just awesome to see a Shmup magazine. I don't know if I'm not even sure if one ever existed even in the 90s. I don't remember a dedicated Shmup magazine. This might be the first time.
If you go to Japan or if you go to France, you probably find the most fanatic Shmup fans ever there. So probably you will end up finding something. But when I talked to João, which is the guy that will receive the emails you write for the contact at Shmupmania, we were talking about this, and we came up with the conclusion that there's none, actually, at least, not even electronic, not even in PDF, like there's none. And because the gaming community in Brazil is totally crazy, we have lots of other magazines going on there. So we have one just for classic gaming, one for MSX, one for whatever. Every other system now in Brazil, I think we have magazines for every niche. And João talked to me and said, okay, like, you will continue writing your articles about shmups. Why don't do it in paper as well? And we made up a team. We found other crazy guys like us, and we decided to make it happen. And that's it. We did it just for the Brazilian market first, because honestly, I don't know why we did it just for the Brazilian market at first. I think it was more like an experience to see like how it would be, how well it would sell on something, and then when we noticed it would be possible to, reach the audience worldwide, we said, man, let's translate this thing and start advertising worldwide and see how it goes. And yeah, we're pretty happy with the how popular it's becoming.
Again, there you go. Anyone who wants to see about getting an issue, there you go. Contact at shmupmania.com.br. It's a really nice magazine. I can tell you that.
We put a lot of effort on it. Like, as you can see, the team is big. There's a big team. I think there's more than 10 people doing the magazine.
That's awesome. And the magazine is like really high quality. The pages are nice and thick. They're not the really thin ones sometimes you get in magazines.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we have people doing other magazines there as well. So we learn from other people's mistakes when doing magazines. And this is not the first magazine at all that a group of fans decided to do in Brazil. So we went in contact with people that were already doing them, and it was a really well played move to make when we decided to start doing it.
That's interesting that gaming magazines are popular in Brazil, because in the U.S., gaming magazines are pretty much dead. I mean,
yeah,
you got Game Informer, and that's about it. I mean, they pop up here and there, and they go away, but nothing really mainstream other than Game Informer.
I think, honestly, I don't know why we how we end up being so convinced of doing this. Like, I think just because we wanted to do a magazine or something, like there was no real reason, like no rational reason for doing this. Like, it's just because it's cool and we enjoy doing it. It's really fun. Like the group of people, they're like all crazy about the subject. And we had crazy kinds of discussions about what to do with the future of the magazine, and it's doing pretty well. Like in terms of team, we had a lot of fun doing it.
Now, in this first issue, you interviewed Terrarin from.
Yes.
Is he in Japan? I know he's Japanese,
Yes.
right?
Yes, he's Japanese.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was still in Japan. But you had a great interview with him, and he's done a lot of. I think he has 3 games on the Switch right now in North America. That was cool. You mentioned you really like Blackbird.
Yes.
Do you think you guys ever reach out to Onion Games to see if they'll do an interview for the magazine?
Man, the problem we have nowadays is we don't like the internet is a nice place to know about things, but a horrible place to know about people. Like if you want to reach someone and the person decides, though, I don't want to use Twitter, for example, it's a nightmare. Like, or if they decide, okay, I'm not on Facebook, or I don't use Facebook, like I don't use much. Like I pretty much like my Facebook is pretty much like a repository for bad jokes or annoying stuff I like to, post. But it's not like me, my life, and whatever there. So it's pretty hard to reach people sometimes, especially if they're not like in the West and they don't speak English. It's complicated.
Years ago, I was probably 15 years ago at this point. There was a Dreamcast game that I loved called Lost Golem, and it was Japanese only. And I remember reading in a magazine, it sold less than 500 copies. It just bombed. But I bought it here in St. Louis. There was a game shop that was it was over half Japanese games. It was really strange. I guess this guy had some connection to Japan. But I saw it there, and I didn't know what it was. But the package looked, or the cover looked cool, so I was like, I'll get it. The guy told me it was a puzzle game, and I loved it. And so a few years later, I wanted to talk to somebody and do an interview with them. So I got out my manual, and I was looking through, and I found the names of everyone that worked on it. And then I started searching the internet, and I found like email addresses for them. Most of them didn't even work anymore, but I just sent it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It was weeks later, I got a response from the guy who was actually in charge of the company.
Oh, wow.
And I had to do an interview, and he goes, he would, because I don't speak English that well. So if you could send me questions, I'll send the answers back. And so I did, and it took him a month or two, but he sent it all back, and I was like, this was awesome. I mean, It was just funny. It's so difficult to find, like you're saying, it's so difficult to find people. This was a shot in the dark. I just sent emails to everybody on the team.
No, and I totally understand why people hide themselves on the internet. Like it's a wild place. Like not everyone there is friendly. It's nice and friendly. Like you never know who's going to reach you. And for example, now we're trying to reach the guys from Compile, and but they're Japanese, and they all use like nicknames. So you see. Are there any modern shmups that you think highly of? I love the twin stick shooting style. Oh man, yes. I actually I did a video recently about the I'm doing a series, a recommendation series on my channel, because like 9 out of 10 times people reach me and want to talk to me about something, they ask for recommendations. So I decided to, okay, let's put it on a video, and I think it will be easier for someone to know what to play. And yes, there's one twin stick shooter that I really like. It's called Next Machina from Housemarque. They are the makers of another game for PS4. What's the name of the game? Well, anyway, the name of the game is Next Machina. It's an awesome game. It's a twin stick shooter. The shmup community hate when you call like arena shmup or twin stick shmup. They say this is not a shmup. But anyway, and modern. Well, more in the regular formula, I would say I love Crimson Clover on the Switch.
Ooh, that's really good.
It's crazy hard. It's crazy hectic. Like there's too much going on the screen at the same time. You look at the screen and sometimes you can even see your ship. But after you get a grip of it, it's amazing.
Yeah. Pete, have you played many shmups?
Over the years, yeah, plenty, but I've never really been good enough at them to go a long ways. I know that I always loved in MAME, playing some of the arcade shmups. Like I'm sorry, I love 1943, 1942. I love those games.
You need to play this.
Yeah, 1944.
You need to play this.
Well, I should. Yeah. Is it different?
It's slightly tweaked. They tweaked it a little bit.
Okay.
You don't have to charge for the laser. The price of things when you're upgrading is slightly different.
Okay.
And the game has some new stages which are pretty crazy.
You played lots of them over the years, but I find them very challenging. I don't.
Yeah. I think shooters are. I think it seems like a genre that a lot of like retro gamers would like.
Yeah.
Because they're simple. I mean, they're difficult, but it's simple to play. You know, you move around. You've usually got one or two buttons. I mean, it's tough to master because you got different kind of scoring systems and stuff. But yeah, they are tough. Like Filipe, I play a lot of shooters, and I stink at it. I'll tell you that right now. I've done a series of videos on our channel about different shmups, and I'm terrible at it. But I love playing them. They're fun.
But that's the point.
I just like trying to get the word out on them too, because get more people playing.
Well, to be honest, like of course, like I understand when someone wants to play well and get good and do like a 1cc or something like that. I totally understand, but honestly, this for me sounds more like homework than fun. When I want to play something, I want to play because I like the game, and I want to have a good time, and that's it. I don't care about. Of course, like if I end up putting too many hours on something, and you end up getting good, and you beat the game, and that's it. That's the natural way of things. Like, but
yep.
I don't like to feel, obliged to do something just because everyone wants to, because you have a channel about shmups or whatever. Nah, you know what? I bought the game with my money. It's my time I'm putting on it, so let me enjoy it. I don't feel I should force myself to beat every game. No. How many times did you buy a game and you play the first stage and say, it's not for me? Or you even like it and say, yeah, it is for me, but I don't want to play it now or in the next 10 years. And it goes to a shelf and that's it. And you still like the game. So, nobody can blame you of doing this. And the only thing I want to say about when, for example, you want to start playing a game, shmup specifically, and the game is hard, I like to remind people of Street Fighter 2. Do you remember the first time you played Street Fighter 2? How many times you got your ass kicked
Because you didn't know
playing
what
Street Fighter?
you didn't know what
You
he
had
could do.
no idea what's going on there, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing. So you go there and you play it, and you will learn a trick or two. And in the end, like every time you play, you learn a new trick. You learn a new dirty trick you can use here and there. It's the same thing with the shmups. They are supposed to be hard because they are a natural evolution of the arcade machines, and the arcade machines were made to each quarters. So
And they're usually pretty short.
naturally they're hard. But if you want to sit and enjoy the ride, put it on easy. Use save states. Use slow down.
Oh,
Use whatever you want to have fun.
I always
That's
play them on
it.
easy because that's the only way I can get through them.
No, life is too short to worry about this thing.
I like that because I hated the people who go, oh, you're not even playing if you're not playing as hard as you can. I said, it's not up to somebody else to tell you how to play, how to have fun with the game.
Yeah. In Brazil, we used to say, in Brazil, we have, this, every bill we have comes into a small barcode piece of paper that you can scan and pay it online, We call them boleto. I used to say, okay, I'll start sending you my boletos. You pay some to me, and then you start giving me opinions. Otherwise, shut up.
Here's a question from Saboteur. Do you prefer vertical or horizontal?
Well, most of the time I play vertical, but you know what? There's now, I'm 45 nowadays, and after putting at least probably, I would say, a good 30 years into shmups, I can tell you, it's more than just an orientation. Like when the game design people put into a vertical is totally different from the horizontal from a storytelling point of view. You can see like every horizontal shmup is more about memorization. It's more methodic. There's more storytelling elements or even puzzle elements. And the vertical shmups are more about reflexes. So it's almost fair to say they are two different entities, two different things. Same goes for running guns. Same goal for twin sticks.
Here, one more quarter's he's got a nice little saying here. I always say, don't be an awesome player, just an awesome person.
Exactly. Like you're gonna. What do you prefer? You prefer to grow old and totally being a totally neurotic and saying, "Oh, I beat dozens of shmups." Or you grow old as a happy person saying, "Oh, I play shmups."
Yeah, my favorite ones. The one mechanic I really love is when you die. Let's say you run out of credits and you feed another credit in on like you're playing on the Switch or something, and you start up right at that same spot. Because a lot of them will kick you all the way back, and I'm like, oh, come on. It's like I want to play through the game. I want to see the whole game, and I'd like to do it a few times. I don't want to. So when you get kicked back to the beginning, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Just let me play your game.
Yeah, I guess this is a reminiscence of the arcade days where they built the respawn points to in order to make you like get back and die again and get back and die again, or start the game from scratch. So Sturto and hit me. Street Fighter is a kind of a big thing. Fighting games in general is a big thing in Brazil. Like they are a big thing. Like people play them for like it's probably one of the favorite genre too nowadays. SNK made a big.
I was gonna say, is SNK more popular there than Capcom in Brazil?
This is a tricky question. I don't know how to answer, but one thing I can tell you is there is a huge preference for some major groups for SNK because SNK was producing. SNK produced PCBs in Brazil, like for a long time. So we had official Neo Geo there. I mean, this I'm talking about this, but this is like 94, 95. We didn't have the import ban anymore. But we had official Neo Geo there. We had the an arcade. Arcade. What's the name of the car? It's the MVS, right? The
AVS and the.
We never had the AES, but we had lots and lots of MVSs everywhere. So every dodgy bar you could find an MVS running King of Fighters something, and people will be there playing it and having fun.
Yeah, I always heard that King of Fighters was really popular in Brazil.
It is.
At least more popular there than here. Although I think King of Fighters 15 is getting to be pretty popular here.
I don't know. You know, sometimes I don't understand some business decisions. For example, I don't understand why SNK never made like a Brazilian team in King of Fighters. Like the Brazilians they put on King of Fighters, I think 94 or 95 are the Kali Warriors. Yeah, you hated Street Fighter as a kid. I understand you. Oh, yeah. I understand. I totally understand. At some point, I hated too, but you know, after you learn it.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like when someone is spamming fireballs at you and you keep getting knocked down. It sucks, but you will learn if you keep playing. You'll learn how to get around that.
Oh yeah.
If there was a way to get around it, it would be a stupid game. It would end really quickly.
I have a fun story to tell you about King of Fighters. There's one King of Fighters. I can't remember exactly which one, but I think it was 98. I don't know. I remember there was one that you enter a cheat code and you could play with the last boss with Rugal. And Rugal was pretty broken. Like it was a brutal character. Like you could like destroy an entire team with no sweat. So I remember, and when we were playing in the arcades, like in Brazil specifically, there's people cheering up for you. So you start playing, and people know you're good. They come watch you play.
Oh, that's fun.
So they start to build like a small crown around the machine. Yeah. And there is another thing, because we are a poor country and the price of tokens was not the best. Most people decided for playing King of Fighters because you could bring 3 friends. Each one get a character, and you split the price of the token.
Oh, that's nice.
That's one of the reasons why it's so popular there. And
I've never heard that before. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was like I mentioned, like it was not a place for kids, and the tokens were not that cheap. So I remember in one occasion we were in a pretty dodgy place. I was like a young adult back in the day, like when this happened, and I remember like we were there, and there were like 2 guys fighting each other, and both of them were like amazing players. And after a couple of tokens, like one of those guys were like having his ass kicked by the other one. He decided to play Rugal. So he put a coin, entered the cheat code, and immediately the crowd grabbed him and threw him outside the arcade because, like, man, this is not fair. You know, they said, no, and people start shouting to him, saying, no, this isn't fair. And they grabbed him and threw him outside the arcade. And because of this, the arcade owner started to stick a piece of paper saying, please don't pick Rugal.
I like they took matters in their own hand and got rid of the guy.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Triple India. I always appreciated the shmups where the player was something other than the usual modern or futuristic aircraft. Games like Philios, for example.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of what is it? There's some cave games, where you're like just person flying around shooting instead of
this. Well, as a long time D&D player, I have a soft spot for fantasy based video games in general, but fantasy game shmups are amazing. Like I love Lords of Thunder in the PC Engine. I love Philios. I love Gnaug, which I think it's called Wings of War in some regions. I like Cave has the Bug Princess, the Mushihime-sama.
No, yeah, that's right.
What else? Well, man, there are lots.
They also had Esperade, where they had, I think, 3 different characters that were flying around.
Yeah. You know what? First time I played Esperade, I could swear it was like the Akira shmup, because the kids are has psychokinetic abilities or something like that. And I was like, man, this is Akira's shmup.
And even Esperade's on Switch, which is awesome.
It's a crazy expensive game to get for Xbox 360, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, the 360 in Japan had
Yeah,
a lot came here too, but in Japan they had a ton of shmups.
yeah.
Came here, yeah.
And isn't that
Microsoft played this card and play too little, too late, but they did it. The Xbox 360 never sold well in Japan. Never. Was pretty much a flop. At some point, the Microsoft executives in Japan started to look for local developers, because they want to make it sell well in Japan, and they reached Cave. And looks like they dropped a hefty amount of money into Cave's hands to port everything to the 360.
is the 360, is that region locked or not?
Yes.
It is region locked?
Yes, unfortunately it is.
Oh, that's a shame.
I have the games here because I managed to pick them to a proxy in Japan, but man, back in the day, and imagine the situation. You're living in Brazil. Everything is already crazy expensive for you, and it's not even for sale in the US. You have to reach someone in Japan to buy the game for you there and send it to you in Brazil. Yeah, I did it for pretty much every 360 shmup.
Wow.
Were there were there when you were there a video game, used video game stores selling games for cheaper? Like maybe somebody, I don't know if someone's getting the game.
Yeah. Well, naturally, when the video game the platform starts to reach the end of life, more people start to have access to it. So we, for example, the 360. The problem with the 360 sold pretty well in Brazil because Microsoft is there. But the problem is when people realized it was like a time bomb, they started to, drop their 360s, their used 360s to in the market and then switch to a PS3 because it was crazy expensive and we had no warranty. So a red ring of death is a red ring of death.
Yeah.
I've heard of people who had 6 or 7 red rings of death. I mean, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, pretty much. It's not hard to. It's a problem with the an eco solder inside, they decided not to use lead anymore. So it was when the console overheats and cool down, it starts to crack.
Mm-hmm.
And but if you, for example, if you slap your console, sometimes it gets back to life. You just press the cracks together and they start back to work again.
I actually waited until Microsoft came out with the Jasper chip for the 360, and that pretty much got rid of the red ring of death. I was holding off, waiting for them to fix it.
I had one system with it, and but I was lucky. I mean, it happened on mine, and I got the box sent to me, send it in, they fixed it, sent it back, and it worked ever since. It worked from that point on. So
Felipe, does Microsoft have a plant or have a factory in Brazil?
Yes, but there's always
systems or for computers.
There's always a caveat. No, we have Microsoft in Brazil. We back in the 360, but for some reason they were not selling video games there. They decided not to. When they decided to manufacture the Xbox 360 in Brazil, they had so many problems with the red ring of death and the warranty and it was so expensive to rework them and put them back in the market, they decided to shut down. But with Sony, it's even worse because they were never sold in Brazil.
Yeah, my 360 was fine, but my PS3 actually died on me.
Yeah, I have one of those fancy PS3s that could run everything, and it died beautifully.
I like this. Brian had a 360 with no issues, and he sold it and immediately died on the game.
Yeah, my 360 is a Jasper too. I have them. The one I have it. Oh, this is very common in Brazil. When I think we should highlight. People mod consoles all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. And the 360 was so easy to mod that, like, you could just sometimes, like at least the first models, the late models, you had to add a mod chip. But the early models were so cheap that pretty much every Xbox 360 was in Brazil was like modified.
What's the online like there in Brazil?
You don't. You mean to play online?
To play somebody like?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You are dragged to the American network, so you play with the with, I think, United States, Mexico, South America, the other countries of South America, but you stay in America, so it's even the games is there, like the region we are is the same as the United States Xbox.
Everyone's favorite Brazilian fighter, Blanca.
You know what? I like Blanca, but people. Now I heard about the. Did you guys hear about the Street Fighter 6? Is it the new one? 6? Yeah. Yeah, the Street Fighter 6. Some people are like asking Capcom to remove Blanca, and I don't understand. Why? Like, because they say the character is broken and the character is a joke, and what, I don't know.
I'll tell you, when Street Fighter 4 came out, that was the main guy I used was Blanca. I love Blanca.
Man, Blanca is so easy to play.
It was fun. I mean, yeah, I've always liked Blanca. He's just an interesting character.
Yeah, he's easy to play. Like, if you don't know how to play properly, you just play Blanca and you do good.
I'll tell you, that's what put me off on the Street Fighter 5, because I was ready to play Blanca, and it didn't even launch with Blanca. As a matter of fact, he didn't come out till like 3 years later. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Street Fighter 5 is, in my book, is like the, everything you could do wrong in a game. And Street Fighter 4 was so good, and they messed up pretty much everything. Not to mention the ads.
What's that?
Not to mention the ads. Do you remember the ads?
I didn't play the game maybe a year at most, but I was long gone by the time Blanca came out, and I saw him, a few years later. I'm like, I'm not going back to play. I really didn't like 5 very much.
The fighting game I'm playing nowadays, which I pretty much like, is Samurai Shodown, the new version.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty good. Did you try it?
Oh yeah, I have it on. I have it on Switch. Does the Switch have the newest one, or is that the compilation?
No, not the compilation. The new one, the reboot.
I'm trying to think. The Switch have it on the.
They have the same. They use the same engine as the King of Fighters games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have it. Because I have, I think I have 2 different ones. I think I have a compilation and
one of those. Yeah, this is good. This one is good.
Samurai Shodown 5. I just got that one not long ago.
Oh, very nice. Oh, I remember that. You did a pickup on that, didn't you, Pete?
Yeah, it's recent.
This is the fact about this new Samurai Shodown, like it plays exactly like the arcade. When you get the controllers and you just do the movements and everything's there.
I know I was going to ask you, when you play, what do you got there? Oh, King of Fighters.
King of Fighters. That's one of the King of Fighters. It's actually the only one I have for the system. There's about 3 or 4 of them. I'm missing a lot of King of Fighters games.
There's a lot of them. Filipe, have you played King of Fighters 15?
I didn't yet. I want to, but
It's fun. I like it a lot.
I didn't play it yet. I know they kind of messed up with the previous ones. I remember playing, I think, one in PS3, I guess. I don't know. I remember I played one and it was like, no. The character art didn't match with the background art. And I remember seeing that. I think, man, this looks like Mugen. Do you know Mugen?
Hmm.
Mugen is an engine to build your own fighting games, and people get like they rip the sprites of King of Fighters, which has nothing to do with the sprites of Samurai Shodown, which has nothing to do with Street Fighters, and just squeeze all the characters together into a crazy game that has nothing to do with anything. And it's pretty much all over the place. And because the characters use like different resolution and they have a different balance. Anyway,
check out 15 if you get a chance. It's a lot of fun.
I will. I mean, my backlog is quite big at the moment, and I didn't even buy it. Actually, to be honest, I'm waiting it for the price to drop a little bit. I think it's like 50 pounds for the game, and
yeah, it's a full price game.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I think it has a lot of production value in it, and especially because it's a game I love it. But I've been not playing fighting games for a long time, and I have one of those modern Guilty Gear games here that I buy and didn't even touch. So I'll get back to it probably before King of Fighters, but I'll end up playing it at some point.
Yeah, I don't. Guilty Gear Strive is the new one, and I don't think I have a system that plays it, so I can't even play it.
I think it's on PS5 and Steam, if I don't remember.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, when you play shmups, do you use a controller or a stick?
Oh, it depends. For example, if it's a vertical shmup, I tend to prefer to use a stick. But for example, if it's an NES game, or if it's SNES game, or if it's a Genesis game, I prefer to use the original stick, the original pad.
Cool. Does it make a difference? Like, if the shmup was a arcade game originally, are you more likely to use a stick for that, since it was built for the stick?
Honestly, I'm quite lazy. I play with whatever is connected. Like I don't like to, where's that? I have to remember where the box is, which cord it is, where to plug, where the console is. I usually it's plugged.
I hear you, brother.
I'm like that a lot. I actually like using the stick for fighters and shooters, but sometimes if I got the controller and I'm ready to turn on the system, I'm like, oh god, it's like my.
Oh yeah.
In the other room, I was like, I'll just play with the controller right now.
No, I have a tiny closet in this room, which is my office and where I keep all of my systems. And this closet has a stack of boxes that goes from the ground to the ceiling. And I don't know what's in there. Like every time I have to open one of those boxes, like I take like 30 minutes to put everything back in and close it. So I said, no. What I'm doing now is I'm modifying a 8-bit 2, which is this guy here.
Oh, which one do you have? Oh yeah, I've got that one.
And
those are new buttons, right?
Yeah, I switched to Sunmo buttons because I can't stand the flabby, soft buttons that with no click. And but you know what? I did a mistake here. I bought premium buttons and I said, okay, this is gonna be fine to play now, right? This part of the controller is fine. Now I hate this. This stick sucks. There's a lot of travel here. It's too soft. Now I want to.
I have that same stick, and it's okay. I didn't like the buttons or the stick, and for the price, it's fine. But
it's really well built.
Yeah, it's well built. I didn't like the buttons that much, and I didn't like the stick.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
AliExpress Sunmo buttons. They cost like $1. free shipping.
For Sandwa buttons? Wow.
Yeah. It's not, of course, it's AliExpress, so it's not official Sandwa, but it's a clone of Sandwa, and they are amazing. They cost like $1 per button, and to replace those ones, you just like it's pretty much like no soldering. You just remove the cables, and they're connectable. You don't have to solder anything.
Oh yes, I remember this Godspeed Atari Ultra with a 360.
Now, depending on the game, I think you're right. Sometimes I feel more inclined to like. I think it depends on the day I had before I start playing. Like if I had a bad day, I play with whatever it's connected. If I'm inspired to play, then I try to go for a stick or a pad. But yeah, fighting games, because I've been playing Street Fighter 4 a lot, now I can't play Street Fighter 4 on a stick anymore.
Oh, you've been using the controller a lot, huh?
Yeah, the PS4 controller. Now, if you give me a stick, I get my ass kicked.
Well, that's the thing. When you first start using a stick, I mean, I think most people suck at it. You got to practice with it, and then you can see the benefits. But man, just using a stick doesn't make you good.
No, definitely. But it's muscle memory. Like I now don't know how to do most things on a stick. Arcade stick recommendations, man. I can tell you what not to get. Don't get the Sega Genesis arcade stick. Don't do this. It's awful. I don't like it. I mean, I like it. It had like nostalgic value, but no. Oh, actually, this 8-bit do is pretty good. Of course, like it's not for pro players or something, but who's a pro player? And I would say get whatever your budget allows, and if you want, buy stick and buttons from AliExpress, and that's it.
Well, one thing I would say too is, personally, I like a stick that has a lot of room to the left of the stick for my hand. I don't like when my hand kind of dips off the stick.
Yeah.
Like the 8-bit Do one, I couldn't get my whole hand on there. It was starting to fall off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people, they don't care. It doesn't bother them, but it really drives me crazy. So if you're going to, I guess, yeah, I would prefer a stick that has a little more room to the left.
Yeah, now that you mention, it makes total sense. There was a good SNES controller, right, where you could put your whole hand on top of it, I guess.
Oh, for the stick? Yeah, I've seen that. I've never had one, though.
Oh, I have one for PlayStation here, but it's pretty good. I use it on my PS3.
I still use my old Xbox 360 Street Fighter 4 stick from Mad Catz.
Yeah, I never had a Mad Cat.
They're really nice. I mean, the Sandwa buttons and stick, and I just, whenever a new system comes out, I get one of those little converters, and I don't know what they are, $20, $30, and it allows you to use your old stick again. So instead of buying a new stick every time, I just keep getting those little converters, and they work great.
Hey, Papa Pete, you look like you want to ask me something. You're too quiet.
No, I'm sitting there looking. I'm looking at the arcade buttons on. It's AliExpress, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking on there now because I've thought about before just trying to build one right from scratch, like build the whole thing. And I've always wanted to build my own, like bar top arcade, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the ideal thing. And so I'm sitting there looking at it. Oh yeah, this is pretty. I had not seen this site before.
This site is one of favorite from people in Brazil because like they're in China, they're cheap, and but they sell good stuff. Like they have everything you need to build an arcade from scratch there. Like I think they even sell the CRTs.
I'm sitting there looking at like the T molding and the routers to put it's everything's there.
Yeah. But yeah, one thing I'd like to ask you guys, if you want, I can try to arrange with Marcus for him to participate in the future. I think he definitely has a lot of information about the history of video games in Brazil.
That'd be awesome. We could have a whole Brazilian video game night. That'd be nice.
I know. I'll let him do the talking because like he's the specialist. But yeah, but he's a very nice guy. I can try to bring him in.
Yeah, he's got books on the subject. He's got documentary.
Yeah, he has a publisher. He's publishing classic games. Like if you know those guys from the the developers from the 80s and 90s. Like what he loves doing is to find if he can find those guys like alive and well. And if they have any intention on licensing their games to them, for example, I don't know if this is the guy, but Jordan Mechner, the guy that made Prince of Persia and Karateka, he probably will look for him and message him and say, "Hey, let's license your game for us to re-release it." And he's been doing this with a lot of people. In Brazil and Europe, I'm not sure about the United States, but you probably can get copies of the games there. But he's basically looking for everyone that had published games in the 80s and is still alive and kicking and willing to resell the game for republishing. And yeah, it's a mix of preservation and business.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We'll definitely have to try have Marcus on because he sounds like a really interesting guy.
He's a nice guy, and he speaks a very good English, so it won't be a problem.
Excellent. Well,
yeah. There's one thing I was researching about on the topic of Intellivision when you asked me.
Yeah.
Good.
I remember back I think a couple of years ago, someone asked me, why do people rename games when in Brazil? Because, like, for example, the Intellivision games, they have an original name, which is the name that the rest of the world knows the game for, and they have the Brazilian name. And people ask me, why do you guys change the names in Brazil? It was like a cultural issue or something. The answer is basically the military. During the dictatorship, they this is a quite fun story, but even music albums were translated to Portuguese, the titles. Even the music names, they translated pretty much everything. It was because the military found like offensive to have other products in another language than Portuguese. They pretty much translated everything. I remember I had a Top Gun, the movie, LP. Under every all the songs names were in Portuguese, and there was like a tiny small print with the name in English, the original name in English. And they did the same with video games because they were very protective, very protective with the national identity and whatever, and so they rebranded everything. They rebranded, they renamed, they translated pretty much everything. And the Intellivision, for some reason, was affected by the line of products of the Digiplay, Interplay, Digiplay. I don't know, was affected by this, like mostly. I don't know why the reason, but they did everything by the book. So everything went to the military censorship, and they translated everything.
It's kind of neat just to look at these games. So they're
Pete, what do you have over there?
So I got a copy of basketball. These are ones that I got from C-Mart, and also I got one from Hank Thompson down in Utah quite a while ago. See, these kind of neat. Triple action. Everything's in Portuguese, right? Everything. Space Armada, which we just got done playing, right, Jeff? And then of course
that's a nice game. I like it.
Yeah, I do too, very much.
I like the sound.
The classic Pitfall,
Digital.
Digiplay, and of course Burger Time, which is one of the most well, it's the most popular. It's a television game there is. When they did the Televisionaries podcast, just did a big survey where they got everybody's top 10 games, and when they put them all together, that is what was the most highest rated game for people's preferences. This is the number one favorite television game of all time. So it's kind of neat to have the Digiplay version, or this one actually doesn't say Digiplay on it, but actually it does. But the Digiplay is right down here in the lower print. Here.
I wonder why Pitfall had it so big at the top.
Yeah, I think that might have been something to do with this being an Activision game.
Okay.
I really do, because these ones are all actual Intellivision games by Intellivision, even that, and it's a little bit more clear, but very interesting. And I love. There's a great, fantastic. We've talked about it before, Intellivision website, Intellivision Brazil, and it's one of the most. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, Filipe, but it is probably one of the best sites you can go to in the world for detailed information on the system, not just in Brazil, but the system in general. So it's fantastic, fantastic website.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to highlight, because I understand that, of course, like you didn't know from where to get this information, but the gaming market, the gaming audience in Brazil is massive. We are 220 million.
Yeah.
The gaming audience for everything you want to do related to gaming in Brazil is massive. Like it becomes turns out into a huge event, and we are pretty much like in love with gaming since it so we're kind of crazy for what we like. So the biggest proof of this is this crazy magazine. We never had a rational reason for doing it, so we just do it. We just do it because we love it. Yeah. And my channel is not even monetized. I've been doing it for years. So anyway, this is so people tend to sometimes overlook or not even remember. Oh, there's people playing something in Brazil. Man, there are a lot of people, and I can tell you, they definitely love what they do.
It's forgotten a lot up here in North America. You may not know, I'm in Canada, actually, and Jeff's in the U.S., but we tend to think of our own little world, and
which is
Europe
fair,
somewhat,
yes.
but we don't think about Brazil and just how big it is and how huge of a market that is. What's the fourth most populous country in the world or something like that? Fourth or fifth?
Don't know. I don't know exactly the rank, but it's massive.
It's there. It's up in the top 5. So yeah, I'd love to.
What I'm trying to highlight here is I know from the top of my head that I've been collecting and involved in the retro gaming since the early 2000s.
Sure.
So Odyssey is huge in Brazil. Atari 2600 is massive. Like I know a guy that's developing 2600 and Odyssey games until nowadays. I'm not sure about Intellivision. I just don't know. I just don't know where they are, but it's probably MSX. Lots of games. In regards of NES and Master System, it's more like bootlegging than developing. But Mega Drive, there's new games every day. The Sega Genesis, SNES, nobody likes programming for the SNES, so it's not happening in Brazil as well. And Steam.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a highlight. Like there's a lot going on there.
That's amazing.
And if you want to know more about what's going on there, just give me a shout. I'm more than happy to talk to you guys again. It was really good to meet you guys today. It was a pleasure.
It was our pleasure.
Loved hearing about the Brazilian video game scene because you always, here we always hear things about the odd stuff in Brazil going on with video games because you guys couldn't import a lot because it was so expensive. So it's always fascinating to hear that stuff. We really appreciate it, Filipe. All right, should we wrap it up, guys?
Yeah,
I think so.
All right.
It's pretty late to me here.
Yeah, really. You're
we're gonna
2 a.m., right?
Oh yeah, it's late. We're gonna end the show, but hang on just for a second. We'll talk. I'm just gonna say goodbye to you on the right after this.
After we log off.
Yeah, we won't keep you long. All right, thanks everyone. Man, I think everyone liked the show. It's a ton of fun. All right, we will see you next week, guys. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.